Ultimately, holiday sewing comes down to how many hours you have available and how ambitious your plans are. I have a habit of making wildly ambitious plans to sew handmade holiday things that I've had to whittle down over the years because I've ended up not being able to fulfill my own goals that I set for myself, that I kept secret and didn't tell anybody else about. And that only impacts me. So it ends up making me feel like, you know, I've dropped the ball, except I'm the one who invented the ball. So it's kind of a weird thing that we create these expectations for ourselves for holiday sewing. And then if we don't meet them, nobody else is disappointed. We're the ones who are disappointed. So over the years, I've kind of narrowed down my own expectations for how much I can realistically, conceivably sew in order to meet my goals and to, create a magical, hopeful, loving, fulfilling, beautiful holiday for the people I care about. And Christmas pajamas seems to consistently be one of the ways that I'm best able to do that. I've written before on my blog about how my family does Christmas pajamas, that we only do 2 presents at our house, one from Santa, one from the grown-ups. You can listen to more about that on the Whipstitch podcast, where I talk about the whole story, or you can read about it on the Whipstitch blog. So on Christmas morning, our kids open 2 presents, one from Santa, one from the grown-ups, their parents, our family. They get really big, complicated, involved stockings that are stuffed filled with little wrapped presents and candies that we don't normally buy for them, and, you know, an orange and a toothbrush and a Pez dispenser. But we also have developed a tradition on Christmas Eve, and I know some families will open a single present on Christmas Eve and the rest on Christmas morning, but when you only have 2, you don't want to pull aside one gift and then give that Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning you wake up and go, yay. So we've developed a tradition in our family of opening one gift on Christmas Eve, and that is a set of Christmas pajamas. It's ended up fulfilling a lot of unexpected goals for us, needs for us, especially when our children were really small. They actually needed pajamas every year by Christmas time. So people will ask me year after year after year, tell us, what pattern do you use for Christmas pajamas? What fabric do you use? You know, how do you decide whether you're going to do just pajama bottoms or a whole top and bottom set of matching PJs? Like, do you do them so that everybody's got matching PJs? Does everybody get different fabric? Like, how do you kind of work through that? So that's what this is all about. I'm going to walk you through my process of how I prepare to sew Christmas pajamas now that I've been doing it for coming on 12 years. I'm going to show you some pictures of Christmas pajamas that I have made in the past with the different style and design options that I have selected. And I'm going to walk you through my timeline of how I get it all done. This is from my son one year when they were making their Christmas lists. And I think he was 11 or 12 at the time. It says, open me. It's from our boy. And it says, all I want for Christmas is your love and Christmas PJs. And I thought, are you serious? My 12-year-old boy, he drew me a picture of a sewing machine. All I want is your love and Christmas PJs. At which point I said, so we will be doing Christmas PJs forever. As a practical matter, the idea of breaking down sewing a major goal like this, because this is not a project. This is like a goal. I want to make sure that every member of my family has a brand new set of pajamas by Christmas morning, Christmas Eve. So part of that is breaking it down into manageable chunks, right? So I don't think of this as today's the day. I think of this as pajama season. That anywhere I have a little bit of extra time or margin, I have to tuck in some pajama sewing. So for me, starting before Halloween, really, with the accumulation of all the necessary supplies is the only way that it really happens. Develop a chapter system, which is to say, think of the process of sewing a big project as if it takes place in episodes. So the first episode is going to be assembling your equipment. And in that case, we're not just thinking about the pattern, although that's obviously part of it. We're not just thinking about the fabric, which we also need. We're thinking about elastic, Will it have drawstrings? Do I want trim? Do I have matching thread? Does it need interfacing? Right? Like, so all of the mundane, get it all together and put it in a cardboard box where it's in one place so that when the mood strikes, when the muse descends and I'm ready to do this work, everything is all together for me. That is a huge part of what gets me to a point of success with any project, is just having everything in one place. Patterns. These are all the patterns I have collected over time. And I have refined these bit by bit. They fall into a couple of different categories. Big four patterns, so McCall's, Butterick, Vogue, Simplicity, your big four pattern companies. Very easy place to get your smaller size sewing patterns. They're really great for the preschool and early elementary years. You can get some really spectacular different shapes and styles, all the way from like long nightgowns to standard mix and match PJ sets. You can vary them up depending on your sewing skill level and kind of your level of interest, right? So I mostly use those for the smaller sizes. For boys, I have been very successful with vintage patterns because it's more of a traditional like lapel look. Although some years I've done these baseball style pullover ones. The vintage patterns were great for boys because I did not find that the boys patterns in the big four were as classic looking, you know, like I just didn't think they were as fun. Same thing for men, that I've had better luck with vintage patterns. Like this one has a collar or like either a gi style, like a karate style, or like a collar pullover style. Men's traditional styling. I found that vintage patterns work really well. You can get vintage patterns on Etsy. You can also find them on eBay. The best suggestion I have is to type in like vintage men's, women's, kids, boys, girls, whatever, pajama sewing pattern. Google that and then look for the results. And a lot of times you'll get like a sewing pattern wiki and you'll see a lot of different results. Get that pattern number right there and then search that pattern number on the sales site. Best way to find vintage patterns. And you can expect to pay, I mean, I would say for most of these, I probably paid in the $8 to $10 range, truthfully, which is way more than I would pay for a new pattern. If I'm buying a new pattern, I'm going on the 99-cent, $1.99 days, 100% hands down. I do pay a lot more for the vintage patterns, but I think they're more interesting. I just think they're more interesting to look at. Some of them come with separate dressing gowns, which I thought my kids wouldn't want, and it turns out they're into. So another note for things you didn't think of. Maybe you get to a year like I did with my husband last year where he didn't need new pajamas, but he really wanted a bathrobe. And so instead of making pajamas, I made him a bathrobe. Christmas morning, the adults get to sleep in as late as they want, and the kids do not get to complain, but the kids do get to open their stocking as soon as they're awake. So go to town on that stocking. Santa has arrived, and the adults can stay in bed until they feel like rolling out and having coffee, at which point the actual gift opening begins. But woe unto you if you open a present before everybody is assembled on Christmas morning. That was my family's tradition. We didn't do anything on Christmas Eve. I really wanted to only open the minimum number on Christmas morning, and so we put Christmas pajamas the night before. The added benefit was our Christmas photos look amazing because everybody's in brand new pajamas. So the dressing gown thing is great, not just because they don't always need new pajamas. My husband did not. He got a bathrobe. He loved it. It's also great because the kids get really, really excited about it. And you can sort of do like the dressing gown is in one package and the pajamas are in one package, and they get to rip. You know, there's a lot of ripping and tearing and excitement in it, and it's super fun. What I have done over time is take the best parts of each of the styles that I like, and I have traced them out to my own patterns. For my adult girl, well, actually, two of my daughters are in adult sizes already. And for myself, I just come back to the Carolyn Pajamas over and over again. These are my closet core patterns. The pattern is absolutely amazing. For my League of Dressmakers, we have a step-by-step video sew-along as part of the league. It's a great place to do piping or flat piping or details or embroidery. I just like a blank palette. For the kids' pajamas, The girls would sometimes want ruffly, but not always. And so I traced out the different pattern sizes, and I always make notes. Like, here's the kid's size. This is a size 10, 12 medium. This is the piece. This is the pattern I got it from. You know, like I trace them out, and then I stick all of them together in one file folder, all the pieces folded up, so that when I go back the following year, because my kids are stair-step ages, I could use, especially with pajama pants, I could use the same pattern pieces year after year, and I save myself a lot of work just by saving the traced pattern pieces. But I store my patterns in between. So this is like a collection of patterns that I have setting aside, but I don't actually go into these anymore because I've already traced off the pieces that I'm going to use, and they're all stored in these folders as separate pattern pieces. So those are the patterns. People ask me all the time, you know, what pattern number should I use? Those are my answers. All right, so chapter 2 is prepare your fabric. You want to pre-wash everything and make sure that the fabric is pre-shrunk and ready to go. Fabric, here's my methodology with fabric. Very, very frequently, you will see wherever your primary resource is for sewing fabric, we'll do sales on cotton flannel. I love cotton flannel. Full disclosure, there are laws in some states about what fabric can be used for sleepwear. You can use any flannel for sleepwear. There are no PJ police coming to your house, but you should understand those laws exist for a reason, and that most of the sleepwear that you purchase out in the world is flame retardant for a reason, and it's because fabric can catch fire. So please be mindful of that as you are sewing for your children. I really do like flannel. I especially like flannel for children's pajamas, pants. They love it. Flannel is one of those fabrics. Cotton flannel is one of those fabrics that gets softer with each wear. You should be aware that when you purchase flannel and prepare it, pre-wash it for sewing, it will shrink twice as if it were a knit fabric. So like when I make t-shirts or something, all of that stuff will shrink up twice. So I wash it and I dry it, and I wash it and I dry it before I prepare it to sew. When I purchase flannel fabric, I almost always do it on extraordinary markdown. That is my preferred sewing method. I always buy it on sale. I pre-wash it immediately, and then I fold it up. And so you can see these are all sort of in these, like, they're stuck together bundles like that. Because I wash it, I pull it out of the dryer while it's still warm, and I immediately fold it up into these little bundles of fabric so that it sits on the shelf all folded up like this. If I'm shopping for fabric and I don't know what I'm making, my rule of thumb is 3 yards. If I'm shopping for pajamas and I haven't selected the pattern yet, I get 5 yards. 5, true story. Because if you're making an adult pair of pajamas from 45-inch wide flannel and you want a top and a bottom to match, you're going to need 5 yards. So I actually stock up. I mean, this is legit, sincerely, no exaggeration. This is a bucket of fabric over here. This is a bucket of fabric turned on its side that normally sits underneath my sewing table, and everything in it is just pajama stuff. It's just fabric that I purchased and saved for pajama time. Now, not every set of pajamas that I make is made from flannel. I made some out of double gauze. Double gauze is, I mean, it's just what it sounds like. It is a gauzy, loosely woven cotton fabric. There are 2 layers of it, and they're held together with itty bitty little invisible stitches. And so it breathes really well. It's super, super light and soft. The texture is very similar to flannel without the nap. Like it doesn't, you know, flannel is sort of like fuzzy. This isn't fuzzy, but it is soft like that. And it does get softer and softer and softer with each wear. I also have some very, very lightweight cottons. And do you see how translucent that is? That it borders on see-through. I have some linen cotton blends that are also a little harder to see with this light. Also very, very lightweight. And then I have, periodically, I will have a fun quilt weight cotton that I also use. My pushback with quilt weight cottons is that they crinkle so terribly. So when I launder, let's take pajama pants, for example. When I launder a pair of pajama pants made from quilt weight cotton, the cuffs will like wrinkle up. And no matter how often I shake them out, they just don't always come out the way I want them to. Like they just feel laundered in a way that the double gauze and the flannel don't. If I'm making pajamas this year and I really want to indulge myself, I would make them from rayon. Rayon is like so dreamy. It is one of my favorite fibers to work with. A lot of the manufacturers right now are making rayon it handles exactly like quilt weight cotton, but it launders and shakes out almost wrinkle free. It feels like silk on your body. Every time you put on a pair of rayon pajamas or a rayon robe, you absolutely feel like you are in a 1930s black and white movie, living in the lap of luxury, staying at the Plaza Hotel. Absolutely dreamy. If I'm making pajamas for me, I'm making the Carolyn Pajamas out of rayon. Full stop. That is my jam. Right? All right. So chapter 1, we're going to choose our pattern. Chapter 2, we're going to choose our fabric. Chapter 3, we're going to prepare our pattern, which might mean deciding what sizes, deciding who's the lucky recipient, tracing the pattern off. Chapter 4, we're going to press and cut our fabric. Maybe it's, divided up. Pressing is one day and cutting is another day. Once everything is ready to go, like all the pieces are cut, all the interfacing is applied, right? Like when I'm cutting, I'm going to go ahead and apply that interfacing, like everything is prepped and ready to go. I will stack one stack for each family member, right? So, I've got family members 1 through 6, and there's a little pile on the table for each of them, or there's a Ziploc bag. Hang on, I'll show you. I seriously just ran over to a drawer and pulled these out. I have these Ziploc bags. Zip closure bags. These are a 2-gallon size zip closure bag. You can get them online anywhere. Not every grocery store will carry them. Mine does, but when they're in like a box of like 10 or some useless number that I can't deal with. But they do have them online. And you can get them in like a box of 100 for some negligible amount of money. I bought a box of 100, and this is a true story. 14 years ago, let me do the math. Hang on just a second. 12 years ago, I bought a box of 100. I have barely made a dent in it, and I use them for project bags. So let's say that you don't have a dedicated cutting space. Like I'm very fortunate. I have a big table, and so I can ding, 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 and I can put out like 6 projects. If you don't, and your situation is that you have to pack everything up at the end of each sewing session and put it away, these are so great because you can take all the different parts, the matching thread, the elastic, the rickrack trim, all the different pieces that have already been cut out, the sewing pattern, the instructions, stick them all in your bag. And then if you have to put that bag under the bed for storage or in the closet, or if you have to shove it in a kitchen cabinet because somebody's coming over, you will have all the pieces ready to go when it's time to sew. All right. As a practical matter, here's what I do next. I always do pants first, and I do all the pants at one time. And there are a couple reasons for this born out of experience. One is that let's say I was too ambitious and I just don't have enough margin or enough time. If I make pants for everybody first, then everybody has pajamas. My worst case scenario there is I've made pants for everybody and we'll get a t-shirt to go with their pajama pants, or here's your pajama pants, right? Not everybody even wants a pajama top anyway. Some years that doesn't work for me. Some years my girls would want a nightgown instead of like top and bottom pajamas or pajama pants. But a lot of years everybody's getting pants. So we do all the pants first and then we can set those aside. And a lot of the pressure is off for me at that point because I have fulfilled my minimum, right? Like I have met the minimum benchmark to check the box on this. And please tell yourself the truth. Like if Christmas pajamas is a thing that you want to do and you've never done it before, and you get to the place where you're like, I've made 2 pair of pajama pants for the 2 children. I have made Jack for the adults and I'm out. I'm done. Be honest with yourself and be like, yeah, That's it. You and me, babe, we're getting nothing. Like, that's cool. That's okay. That's okay. You've made Christmas pajamas. So let's say you want to assembly line some pajamas for your family this year. I would absolutely pre-wash everything all at once. Like, I'm going to run a load of laundry and it's all going to be yardage that I'm going to pre-wash, run through the dryer and get ready. Fold it up and make a stack. Next, I'm going to cut everything out all at once. So here's one day. One day is laundry. One day is when I pre-wash everything and I get it ready. And then I'm going to fold everything up neat and tidy and clear my workspace. Another day, I'm going to cut everything out, right? So I'm going to prep all my patterns. So you make your selections about what the patterns are. You lay the patterns out and trace the sizes you need or cut the pieces out if that's your jam. Get everything ready to go. These can be the same day. While the laundry is running, I can be preparing my pattern. Next, cut everything out. Assembly line the whole thing. Put on a Netflix, put on a podcast, put on your favorite Spotify playlist, roll out that fabric, press it up with your iron, roll it out, cut it out. Okay. So if I'm making 5 sets of pajamas, there are 5 tops and 5 bottoms. They're all cut out at once. Set it aside. That's another day. So this could be 2 separate days or 3 separate days, depending on your life, you know. And then we sew. We sew all the pants first on the same day. That way, if you end up in a time crunch or you end up like, this is a stupid idea and I don't want to do this anymore, you've got pants for everybody and they are finished, right? And then I separately do the tops. If you are concerned heading into this, you're like I feel my chest is getting tight and my gut is churning. Like, if you feel like you've already bitten off too much and you haven't even started yet, consider doing matching pajamas all in the same fabric. And that way, as you sew each step, you can sew the same step on all the garments and you don't have to think about changing your thread color. The same applies to, like, even if they're not doing the same fabric, if you choose the same color family for all of your fabrics, you can use a single color thread all the way through and it won't, you're not going to have to change thread or change your bobbin or anything else. You can just start out and sew. Saves you such a lot of time. I hope that if sewing Christmas pajamas is on your list on any level, that you will give it a shot. I hope that the patterns that I've shared with you give you some ideas of places to start. Every single one of them is available somewhere on the internet. A great resource is patternreview.com. If you head to my blog, whip-stitch.com, you can get some ideas for the sources that I use for fabric. You can find all of my favorite resources for online fabric dealers. And as always, I encourage you to visit your local independent quilt shop to find fabrics near you. Have a fun holiday, everybody.